Okay, hello, welcome back to Artisan Realty training videos. This particular video is going to focus on just basically filling out a listing contract for sale. And we're in zip forms right now. I pulled the form up already, so I'm double clicking on it and it will pop up here quickly. We're going to make up some names and addresses and people for this one. We won't use specific people, but this is the way we do it. So this is a listing contract for sale. It's about 3 or 4 pages. Gets a little tricky in some spots, but we're going to kind of review it all right now so you can use this as a guide for listing contracts. One of the things about any contract you sign with a consumer is they get a copy of whatever they fill out or whatever they sign. So a general rule of thumb there. So we are Artisan Realty. Our company address 107 South Church Street, Westchester, Pennsylvania. PA 19382, and in this case it's going to be me as the licensee, so I'll put Dan Burney, and my direct phone number, my cell phone is 610-308-5670. If you want to list a house, give me a call. My email address is danielj.burney@gmail.com. Company phone is 800-948-8018, and the company fax is 484-631-0526. So that's the heading up there, the way to get started. Now we'll talk about the sellers here. We could have, notice we have an individual seller. So if it's a husband and wife, we put John Johnson, Jane Johnson. Sometimes there's 3 or more sellers. For example, it could be an estate property left to 3 or 4 different people. It could be a corporation as well. So in this case, let's just do John Johnson and his lovely wife, Jane Johnson. When I often make a mistake when you assume that people are husband and wife with the same last name, they could be brother and sister as well. So just a thought there. Seller's mailing address is 100 Sycamore Way. Okay. And let's put that in Westchester, PA 19382. Okay, and the seller's phone number is whatever it is. We'll leave that alone. And the seller's email is very helpful to have it here. seller@gmail.com. This will be your reference point all the time you have the listing to see who you're dealing with and what their phone numbers are. Seller understands the listing contract is between broker and seller. Does seller have a listing contract with any other broker? So hopefully the answer is no there. If they do, you certainly have to check with me, the broker, to make sure that we know what's going on. If there's competing listing contracts or maybe competing obligations to pay commission, so we want to figure that out, and I want to know about that. For sale price, there's a strategy if you're going on a listing presentation to leave that blank. Some people think it's a better idea to put a number in there, and then if people insist on a higher number, then you're going to cross it out and make a big deal about changing it so they know it's their number and not your number. It'll be important later on in negotiations. In this case, I'm going to put $299,900. There's our price. 100 Sycamore Lane. Municipality. I'll make that one up. Chester County. School District, Westchester. Now for the zoning, you can't guess at the zoning. You have to go back into the public records. Not just the last listing if this property was listed, but go into the public records in Chester County Township and see what the exact zoning is. It should be something like R5 or not just anything other than just plain old residential. You want to be specific about that because other people are going to refer to this and make assumptions about the use, whether they can add on to it, put up a fence, all kinds of different things. So the zoning is important. Present use residential. It's okay to put residential right there. Okay, and then again, that tax ID number, which you can get in the public records as well. It's usually a long digits, and it will refer to this particular property. Every property in Pennsylvania has a tax ID number, whether there's a house on it or it's just a lot. It's a way that they can keep track of taxes, obviously, and we can keep track of houses. With a property like 100 Sycamore Lane, how many 100 Sycamore Lanes do you think there are in Pennsylvania? I would venture to guess there's about 50 of them. So we want to say not just 100 Sycamore Road, but this 100 Sycamore Road, just so we don't have any misunderstandings. If you're selling vacant land or a house with a lot, it's exceptionally important that you use a tax ID number in the listing contract. Starting date, today is November 23rd, 2014, and then the date when it's going to be expiring. This is a really tricky question. It's not a simple question. If I'm in November right now and I know December is going to be a dead month, I'm not even going to count December as an opportunity to sell this property. January sometimes can be a wicked winter here in Philadelphia region of Pennsylvania. So what I'm ideally looking for is 6 months. That's a nice number. If there's a problem with that in the seller, obviously you can go lower, no shorter than 3 months. If you're shorter than 3 months, then you're really rolling the dice. You're going to do about 20, 30 hours of work with very little probability of the property selling and getting some compensation. This isn't because the mechanism isn't there to sell the property. It certainly is. It goes in the MLS, goes on the internet. Everybody in the world who wants to know about the property will know about it. But the mechanism for adjusting the price and the terms isn't there. We've got to put it on the market for 2 weeks, figure out which way the wind is blowing, get some feedback from some showings, and then price it accurately. And of course, this is a moving target. Houses could come on the market and it'll be a better deal. Other ones could leave the market and leave this one standing as the best deal that's out there. You really have to take some time and thinking before you take a listing and put a time in there. 6 months is always a good number. Understand that our competitors try to get a year because they're not as good as we are, for lack of a better way to say it. So I'm going to put May 22nd, 2015, try to give me 6 months to sell this property. And of course, I'll be adjusting everything every month, taking a look at it. Notice it says here dual agency. Unless someone says something to the contrary, this contract allows you, the listing agent, to be a dual agent to represent a buyer and a seller in the same transaction. This is the seller giving permission for that to happen. And that would be designated agency allows for dual agency. So if you click that box here, you can't be a dual agent. If you want the opportunity to be a dual agent, and we have no problem with it in our company, let me restate our terms or rules for dual agency. If you find yourself in a situation where you want to be or have to be a dual agent, just run it up the flagpole with me first. I may get involved in some ways, or I might say it's fine the way it is, but I need to know if you're going to try to be a dual agent, especially new in your career. Broker's fee. So in this case, we're going to ask for a 6% commission, and I'll leave that alone. 6% commission. That's all you really need right now. There's an opportunity here, line 46. There's a number sign, a blank. Some amount of the broker's fee is earned and non-refundable at the signing of the listing contract payable to the broker or the real estate company. Let's just say you go on a listing appointment and someone says, "Hey Dan, I want to get that video guy. I want the guy with the helicopter to fly up above the property and take some aerial shots. I want you to build a website for this property." And then you realize pretty quickly that's about a $700 proposition. Well, the seller could change his mind or maybe just be unreasonable moving down the line and not accept offers that come in. You would be out $700 plus your 30 or 40 hours worth of work. This would be an opportunity to put in here, hey, if you want that particular marketing, we want $700 of that up front. If we sell your property, then we will obviously discount that from the 6%. That's an opportunity to cover situations which are unusual in respect where the seller wants you to pay additional money upfront out of your pocket, which you may or may not believe in. Notice the licensee initials here, the seller initials here. Now we're on to page 2. Very interesting. I won't get into the reading part of this. I'm just going to put in here 30 days is the answer right here. And what that 30 days refers to is if you lose the listing after 6 months and a buyer had gone through prior to the end of your listing term who then eventually buys it, you're protected for 30 days. After that, all bets are off. The seller doesn't owe you any commission. Broker's fee in the event settlement does not occur. Okay, I'm not a big fan of this particular holding people's money. I'll give you this scenario. Someone makes an offer to buy the house, and husband and wife, and they have a divorce between the time they offer buyer to buy the house and get the settlement. So they leave $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 deposit on the table. What percentage of that is the broker going to keep as a fee? My philosophy here is I put 50%. The reason I put 50% is not because I want 50%. I actually don't intend to take that money. But if there's a big number there, the entire amount the seller can have, then it's very difficult to get the seller to negotiate away from keeping the buyer's money. They look at it as a windfall. And what that means is that the seller will be dragged into court. And guess what happens when the buyer drags the seller into court? Sure enough, they're going to drag the listing agent into court. So that 50% is done literally just to minimize the amount of money that a seller can benefit from. And it never does anything except deter sellers from making a pretty stupid move, trying to keep someone's money when they're really trying to sell their property. They get their goals confused there. Now, when you get down here, cooperation with other brokers, what I believe is that we should, anytime we can, we should split the commission that we're earning 50% with the buyer's agent. So if another agent brings an offer that's accepted by the seller, they're going to get 3%. And also if another agent brings an offer that's accepted as a transaction agent, hey, they've done the job as well. They should get a half of our commission as well. I'm going to go down a little bit further here. There's not much more to do here. Marketing of the property, basically we're going to say we're going to do all this stuff. Seller does not want the property listed or displayed on the internet. That would be stupid. Seller does not want the property listed to be displayed on the internet. Stupid. So we want the property displayed on the internet. You might want to put, let's say, advertising, electronic. Okay, this gives us the right to take pictures, put them on the internet without getting any trouble. I think that let's say this one right here: comments or reviews about a seller's listings or a hyperlink to such comments in immediate conjunction with seller's listing. That applies. We're okay with that. We're in 2015 here. You've got to live with what's out there in the marketplace. Estimates on the same page. For example, Zillow might say if you buy this property, it will cost you X amount of money. That's good information. And then we will click this fourth box down here. Broker will use the multiple listing service to advertise the property. If something's included, like washer, dryer, refrigerator, this would be the place to put it. Doesn't necessarily have to show up on the MLS that way. You can take a attitude that we're going to include them, but we're going to leave them separate, and we'll use them in negotiation when we're negotiating a home inspection, for example. Someone says, hey, could you fix the fireplace? We'll say no, but we'll give you the washer, dryer, and refrigerator. At least we'll get some currency value out of that. From the public records, you can put in the real estate taxes, the assessed value. The numbers will all be in there. Is a property preferentially assessed? That's something that is not commonplace around here. Something like that would be, let's just say there's a property associated with a church. The church gets a low assessment because it's a religious organization. And because of that, it's preferentially assessed. And then when it changes from being, say, a place where priests, nuns, or ministers are living to being resided in by members of the public, the taxes are going to go up. So that would be a situation with what's going on there. The other thing is in Philadelphia, brand new construction gets a 10-year tax abatement, and that's certainly a preferential assessment, so that would last for 10 years. And they put, hey, it's 5 years old, we have 5 years left, you might put that in there. If there's a homeowners association, you put that in there. It's not the end of the world if you don't know it at this point. Don't let it stop you from taking the listing. This again deals with the seller will give possession of the property to the buyer on settlement or on, and you just put the word, I just put NEG if it lets me put, it's not going to let me put in negotiable. So I'll just pick a random date out there, which would be, so we'll go to 2015. This really doesn't mean anything. It's a part of an old history, the way we used to do things in real estate, but it doesn't affect us now. The mineral rights are not important in this part of the area. It is important to ask people, how many loans do you have? And just a quick thought here. A lot of people get a equity loan against their property, but they don't call it the equity loan. They call it the kid's school loan or the car loan. There's beneficial reasons for getting an equity loan. So ask them how many mortgages do they have, and second, how many equity loans do you have, and third, how many loans do you have for a business or a startup or anything else where it may affect the property, and you want to have them all listed here so you get a clear picture of just how deep the people are with their obligations on the property. You have to stop and ask them, do you have any judgments, any personal judgments which could affect your property, any federal tax liens, any state liens, any organization chasing after them, any lawsuits that they're involved in, are they involved in a divorce? All of those things here could affect whether or not the property is actually marketable. Coming down here, you can put the seller will accept cash, conventional, FHA. Again, this is something that has some history in it. They just never took it out, but it's really not going to affect our situation. If they're willing to pay a seller assist and they want that to be part of the overall marketing plan, you might want to put that, right in here. They'll put a, 6% seller assist, but that's not really important. This is really between you and the seller, and it's not what's in the MLS at this point. Any additional documents here, like a short sale addendum if the people are upside down and they'll be selling it as a short sale, you'd certainly check that and put it in there. The seller would initial here, saying that they've acknowledged that these 3 statements are true. They sign right here. The broker, when they say broker, they really mean the listing agent. Either of you can sign right here. There's no need to get a witness in this situation. And when you get down here, you're all done. And see if you remember what I said in the beginning. That's right. You get a copy, they get a copy, and bring one back to the office or fax one over to us so we have record of it right here. That's the quick, down and dirty way to fill out a listing contract. Now, one more little piece of trivia. Let's just say you get a listing contract, you're out on a Tuesday night, you get it, and then you send it to me the next day. I have the right as the broker to ignore or give back that listing contract. If I see that there's something that just won't fly on it or some issue that I have with it, just the fact that you took the listing doesn't mean the company will take the listing. It's a 2-step thing. You take it, and then we agree to take it after we see what it's all about. So that's it for basically filling out your listing contract. Hopefully that helps. Any questions, give me a call.